3D printed organs? Yes, please. We're going for it. Okay, so I looked this up on a whim and very quickly fell deep into the hole of what the heck is going on here. This is wild. First thing I searched was 3D printed organs and led me here. 3D printed organs. Are we close? So it's going to be a couple decades, but they're working on it. So they use a 3D printer. I'm assuming similar to like a regular 3D printer that prints regular things. This says that the organs are functional biological replicas of naturally occurring body parts. And they're made out of cellular bioinks? What? And they're artificially grown in a lab. Wait, how is it printed but are also grown? Apparently, this isn't the first time they've done this. The first one was in 1999. They printed a bladder, and it's still being used today, a couple decades later, which is kind of crazy. So there was also a 3D printed ear implant. I didn't get a chance to look into that, but that's wild. I would like to look into that. And also, I did not even see this the first time around. Mobile bioprinters that can print skin directly onto a wound? What? How do they keep the patient still enough for that to happen? So we're not really close to this being a reality yet. It's still around 20 to 30 years away, which is not close, but they're working on it. Also, they're only printing things that have a simple geometry right now and architecture. They're not like the more complex organs like a heart or, I don't know, maybe a kidney. I don't know which organs are complex. Anyways, those ones aren't being printed yet. It's just the ones with simple architecture. Start small, right? So at this point, I was like, I read through most of this article and I was like, I have so many questions. Are they printing these things at a cellular level with these quote unquote bioinks? And where are they getting these biomaterials from? And what are organoids? Oh, I forgot to mention organoids. So this is another part that's a little bit confusing. It says the researchers are excited about 3D printing because of these things called organoids, which are mini organs. They're small-scale functional replicas of naturally occurring body parts that are produced in vitro. But I'm pretty sure in the next thing it says they've all been duplicated in petri dishes, like they've been grown. Also, what the heck? Why have we not scaled them up to regular size right now? Why are they mini? Are they like animal? Are they like tiny mice organs? Or are they like regular organs that just grew the wrong size? I do not care about your benefits. So what happens if like this organ is rejected from the body and the body doesn't take it? Or like how do they even get it into the body in the first place? Or what does higher resolution mean? They want these printers to perform faster and at higher resolutions? What's the resolution they're printing at right now? I probably should have thought about this before, but I don't know what this built-in website is. Like, what do they do? How is this a credible source? Is this website just bullshitting me? I hope not. Anyways, we're going to see if we can start answering questions, starting with what materials are used in 3D printing organs? Because I would like to know. So that search brought me here. An overview on materials and techniques in 3D bioprinting. So they've got this nifty picture here, which honestly explains literally nothing to me. So you've got biological components and materials. So you've got your polymers here, which are the long strands of things. You got your cells, biomaterial. So these two things together equal these things, maybe. And then you've got your printer here, and this is what it's doing. And these are the different 3D printing techniques. So you've got like your regular extrusion. I don't know what inkjet based means. Like all of these things, I have not looked into them at all, but I guess we'll get there. It's like fun looking graphic that explains literally nothing. Be better at explaining things with graphics. Okay, so this whole thing is this introduction, long introduction. And then we get to common biomaterials in 3D printing. And the first one is synthetic polymers, which doesn't synthetic mean that it's not natural? Does bio mean the same as natural? I don't know. What does bio mean? So the important factors for materials that are going to be 3D printed is that it has to be biocompatible. It has to have homogeneity and degradation, which means, if you're wondering, I had to look it up. Homogeneity means they're all the same. So they all have to degrade at the same rate, and they have to be printable naturally. So apparently biomaterials is just another word to say they're natural and or synthetic. Confusion. And they can be classified into their chemical nature of 4 groups: metals, polymers, ceramics, and composites. So it says that thermoplastic polymers are the most applicable materials. I have no idea what that means, and I tried to look into it using this link, and I got nowhere. And I was like, whatever, I don't even care that much. But now I'm thinking about it, I do care. I want to know, so I'm going to look into it later. So these synthetic and natural materials are classified into two main groups. So these 3D bioprinting materials are classified into two main groups: synthetic polymers and natural polymers. The synthetic ones are better, apparently, because of their structure and mechanical properties. There are fewer limitations in their fabrication procedure, which, I mean, I feel like, yeah, duh. But also, is it not better to have natural things inside of a natural body? Call me crazy. Then I was looking into the different like materials that are started, and I was noticing something with all of these like acronyms: PLA, PDLLA, ABS, PEG, PGA. I'm pretty sure these are all, I was looking these things up, and I'm pretty sure these are all the same materials that they use in like regular 3D printing machines when you see like a spool of 3D printing filament. These are the same materials. Anyways, that's as far as I got. I'll be back later to update more because there going to be more. In the back. So like I said, I thought I could get over the thermoplastics thing, but I couldn't, so I looked into it, and this is where I came to. What is a thermoplastic? It's a class of polymer that can be softened through heating and then processed using methods such as extrusion, injection molding, thermofoiling, blah blah blah. Once it's cooled, it does not show any changes in chemical property after being heated and cooled multiple times. I spent a long time reading this, and then I realized that it's just 3D printing filament. That's all thermoplastics are. I mean, basically, that was kind of the gist. That was kind of what I was getting. And it's very possible that it's more complicated than that, but I couldn't figure out what the difference was. So I did kind of just leave it at that. That other website that I was looking at just worded it in the nerdiest possible way. Chemistry nerd. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't understand it, because chemistry is the bane of my existence. Anyway, so I searched, is 3D printer filament an example of thermoplastics? Because I was like trying to figure out. It was hard to tell, so I kind of moved on because my brain wasn't working at that point in the day. So then I looked into, is there a difference between biomaterials and synthetic materials? Because I don't really understand what they're talking about when they say biomaterials. What are they talking about? So I came here, and this defined it as man-made materials which have been designed to induce a specific biological activity, which wasn't super helpful. And then synthetic biomaterials are man-made ones, and natural ones are non-man-made ones. Go figure. So this doesn't really help me much. I was like, this isn't really answering my question. So I searched biomaterial explained, and that brought me here. What is a biomaterial? So apparently there are two common definitions. One is a material derived from or produced by biological organisms, like plants, animal, blah, blah, blah. These are also called biologically derived materials. And the other common definition is a material used for biological purposes, such as a biomedical application, like treating an injury or growing biological cells. These may be synthetic. And at this point I was like, it might be easier to define what isn't a biomaterial. Because it seems like pretty much anything can be considered a biomaterial if you're using it for medicine or if it's found in nature. I guess it looks like it might have needed to be living at some point. So if it was alive at some point and or it's used in medicine, it's a biomaterial. So I went here, biomaterial, any substance or construct that interacts with biological systems. So if it's interacting with something that was alive at some point or is currently alive, then it's a biomaterial. Moving on. Did a little thinking out loud because it was confusing. I was very confused at this point. And then I decided to kind of reassess a little bit, go back to the beginning. 3D printing organs, back to the start. What are 3D? And that brought me here. 3D printed blood vessels. And I read this for a little bit and my brain was just not working, and I wasn't ingesting anything. They were talking about how they are printing blood vessels and they're using this cool kind of like double coned nozzle where like the outer cone is, either longer or shorter, and so they are able to extrude two different materials at the same time, and they can kind of like puncture into another blood vessel at the same time. But I was like, I'm not getting any specifics. I'm just kind of getting a lot of generalities because my brain's not working. So I moved on from here too. So I searched up what kind of printers are being used for 3D printing organs, and that brought me here. 3D printing of physical organ models. This one too. I feel like there was a lot of like interesting looking figures and tables and stuff. This one kind of looked interesting. Why are all these images such poor resolution? Anyways, but my brain wasn't really working, so I didn't really get a chance to think about it. Because I kept looking at these and being like, I don't really understand what's really going on. Like, these are some different methods of 3D printing. You've got like your resin printing, your other printing, your extrusion with different resins in there and all this stuff, but I couldn't get into it, so I moved on to organoids, because we talked about earlier about how they were growing like miniature organoids in petri dishes or whatever in vitro, and I was like, that sounded really interesting. Let's look into that. Right here, the title of this is Organoids, and that's it. So organoids are simple tissue engineered cell-based in vitro models that recapitulate many aspects of the corresponding in vivo tissue. And I had to look up the difference between in vitro and in vivo because I did not understand. And in vivo means within the living. So it usually refers to work that's performed in a whole living organism. So in vivo, living organisms, inside living organisms. In vitro is Latin for in glass. So it's when something is performed outside of the living organism, like in a test tube. So in vitro test tubes, in vivo life tissue. So basically they're using these organoids to study diseases and like how diseases are working, so they can grow the organ or the tissue in a petri dish or a vat or wherever, and then like give it a disease or give it a drug or give it whatever, and then see how that organ responds to that stimulus, and then be like, oh, it's working this way, oh, it's working that way. It's kind of a cool idea. Let's see what else we found. Once again, though, this was not the full article. They want me to pay $30 a month for access to portfolios, and I'm like, nah, that's whack. So Anna's Archive to the rescue again. Thanks, Anna's Archive. So I wanted to look at these figures mainly because there's a lot of other cool figures in here where they're talking about, I don't know, in theory you'd think they would be talking about the organoids, but it's confusing because you have to know what they're talking about already. I didn't know what TDCs were, which I think they're tissue-derived organoids, which is like you take the tissue sample out of the thing. Like if you're growing a human organ, take it out of the human. Growing a rat organ, take the tissue out of the rat. iPSCs are induced pluripotent stem cells, which pluripotent means immature stem cells capable of giving rise to several different types of cells. So pluripotent basically just means a stem cell that's really young and can still do all the things that young stem cells do. But so at this point, I wanted to know more about the immature stem cells, the pluripotent stem cells. So I looked it up, and it turns out that this part is crazy. So these induced pluripotent stem cells are derived from skin or blood cells that have been reprogrammed back into an embryonic-like state that enables the development of an unlimited source of any type of human cell, which is crazy whack. So they can take basically any stem cell and turn it into a young stem cell and then use that young stem cell to do whatever the heck they want. And so I was like, reprogrammed, what the heck does that mean? So I searched it up, and it brought me here. Induced pluripotent stem cells, reprogramming platforms, and blah, blah, blah. So this says, this technology is one of the most promising technologies in the field of regenerative medicine. And I feel like that could probably be an understatement. Because, I mean, I know next to nothing about this, but I feel like if you could get the stem cells thing working, where you can just regenerate stem cells and just pull them back to zero, pull them back to young little stem cells anytime you need to, you could get rid of all of the other stuff. Like, why would you need to grow an organ? Or, I'm sorry, why would you need to 3D print an organ when you can just stick some stem cells in there and just grow it right inside of a person? Maybe that's not how it works, but I feel like this is some wild tech. So this article gets pretty deep into the weeds on how stem cells are grown, and I understood very little of it. This is some pretty complicated stuff, and I tried looking up like pluripotent stem cells explained simply, and it's like, this is too far into the weeds. Nobody's explaining this simply because it's way too far into the weeds to get a simple explanation. So I kind of was just like, suffice to say, they're young stem cells, and it's wild stuff. Went back to organoids to keep looking, and then I ran out of time. I'm not sure what to do at this point. I might make this a single video and then make it a two-part series, because I definitely want to keep looking into this because it's hella interesting and there's so much I didn't cover. Keep filming, or if I just want to cut this together and then do another like 2 days worth of research and then cut that together into part 2.